Hey there, friends. I wanted to point out some very distinct differences between political groups of people, not necessarily political parties. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that enter the comment section, and I'm grateful that you guys comment in the comment section, but you go into the comment section, some of you, and you say, oh, all political parties are the same, also implying that people who are part of those political parties are also the same. And that could not be further from the truth. I realize that most people in Washington, D.C. with that particular zip code, regardless of political affiliation, are bad people. They're usually corrupt or they get corrupted. However, people like us who choose a political side, and in some cases we choose it based on common sense. I'm center to right because I use common sense and a certain moral compass to guide me. So I naturally fall on the right. You take that how you want to, but that is what it is. I didn't have a formula to get on the right. I wound up on the right because of my own personal feelings, just happened to be better than the ones of those on the left. This is the news story about the FEMA employee who is total and absolute scum. And I want you to see this news report first, and then we'll talk a little more about this.
I certainly, if it was happening in Lake Placid, it's happening all across the great state of Florida, probably happening in western North Carolina, probably happening all of the states that were hit by Hurricane Helene. And that's what we in Congress need to get to the bottom of. The FEMA administration wants to say this was an isolated incident, but there is alleged text messages from Washington, D.C. to the supervisor advising them and directing them to do this. So somebody higher up within FEMA was advising the people on the ground to do this. So if it was happening in Lake Placid, I can guarantee you it was happening in other places all across the great state of Florida and the country. And the Oversight Committee needs to get to the bottom of this. And the very first stop would be the person who was fired, put them under oath, and ask them who in their chain of command was directing her to do this.
That'd be some interesting testimony. You touched on this a moment ago. Ron DeSantis, your governor, sent this out on X. The blatant weaponization of government by partisan activists in the federal bureaucracy is yet another reason why the Biden-Harris administration is in its final days. Did you reflect on that at all, that last point there? Coming off this election?
Well, that's the other great thing about that. Yeah, that's the great thing about these election results is Donald Trump's going to be president in a short couple of months, and we will get to the bottom of it because somebody in his administration will take over FEMA and will do its own investigation after the Biden-Harris administration is out of there. So we'll get the answers at some point, but I want to know how high up these decisions went, and every single person in that chain of command that was involved and or responsible for directing people who worked for FEMA that to not give FEMA aid to Trump supporters is absolutely atrocious.
Well, it appears FEMA did the right thing and terminated this individual. Had they not, we may never know the truth about it.
So according to this congressman, this is a much bigger problem than what we've seen. Now, obviously, we are never going to know or find out any of the true details of this other than what we already know based on what we've gotten from whistleblowers, simply because the government, there's nobody better at covering up, or at least covering their own tracks, as the federal government. They're busy right now, no doubt, deleting emails, text messages, memos to one another. This is a concerted effort right now to hide this because no one wants them to see that. My point in all of this is very, very clear. These people, I'm talking about people who are left of center, they don't look as other people as people. They look at other people as the enemy. They don't see people without a D behind their name or who fall in lockstep to the slave masters who tell them via the media or anybody else in politics who to vote for. They don't see them as equals. They see them as super, super, super inferior to them. And they think that they should be punished somehow. This is a way that they have weaponized the federal government at every single level in these bureaucratic departments that are unelected, by the way. These people have all gravitated to the far left. And it is a mission, whether it's an official mission or an unofficial mission, it's a mission by them to punish us. Those of us who don't agree with them, they have no tolerance for. And this is a clear-cut example of them using their positions and the federal government via taxpayer dollars to attack and inflict some kind of revenge on us for not falling in lockstep with them. And you cannot tell me that this person acted alone. In fact, we know they didn't act alone, although this is the only face of it that we're seeing right now. This person made decisions to help disaster-affected Americans using taxpayer money that those same people paid into, and she based her decision to pass their homes up and not render any assistance based solely on who they plan to vote for president. Now, one of the FEMA employees who was questioned stated, "I know they're short-staffed. I thought we could go help and make a difference. When we got there, we were told to discriminate against people. It's almost unbelievable to think that somebody in the federal government would think that's okay." Photos shared in the report stated that workers flagged homes as, quote, "not able to access properly," unquote, and included explanations for passing these homes up by stating, quote, "Trump sign, no entry per leadership," and per leadership, "no stop Trump flag." Another one stated Trump sign. And finally, another one said Trump sign, no contact per leadership. Now, FEMA's response in this was almost funny because, as I stated earlier, they are in definite, for sure, disaster mode of their own as far as relief efforts to try to mend what they screwed up. In fact, this is not what you want to see when there's been a new boss that's been assigned that's going to be over you, right? This is like the worst possible news that they could have, because here they're going to get a new boss in a couple of months, and these people already have a black eye. And I can promise you, and I do think they will do this, Trump will go in here and absolutely clean house. We have so many reasons why FEMA, remember, FEMA is also who created a line item for their budget to bring in all these people illegally on the southern border. So it's not just the disaster relief debacle that these people have overseen. It's also what they've done to allow 21 million illegal aliens to come in on the southern border. Yes, FEMA was in charge of that. In fact, gave billions of dollars as a result of that to assist those people and scatter them all over the United States. FEMA's statement says, "FEMA helps all survivors regardless of their political preference or affiliation, and we are deeply disturbed by this employee's actions." Let me explain something to you. What did you say there? They help all survivors regardless of their political preference or affiliation? No, you don't. You're literally commenting on a story where FEMA did discriminate on somebody who needed help. This isn't somebody who needs a couple of MREs. These are people who lost their freaking homes. They probably lost loved ones in those homes, but they lost everything. They lost the foundation of their home. They lost every single thing they owned. And FEMA thinks because they have a Trump flag in their front yard, or at least a FEMA representative, not necessarily FEMA at the top, right? That's another story altogether. But a FEMA management employee decided that that Trump flag meant they should not have that help. Now, this came down from high up. There's way more to report on this than what I have time for. This was not one person's decision to discriminate against these Trump supporters. This came from Washington, D.C. More will come out on this. There is more proof that this was administered from the federal government level, and it was not some, quote, lone wolf out there doing something crazy without any guidance from D.C. Now, if you're wondering if this person did in fact have any stroke, you will see Miss Washington right here falls just under on this org chart, Branch 7 Task Force Lead 1, Chad Hershey. So there's one person that she reports up to, and that person supersedes her. So this person was in management. This person did oversee processes and procedures and did have administrative or at least some kind of management authority to tell people below them, you can or cannot do this. And again, that's how this came out. The whistleblowers that were given this direction from Miss Washington were the ones who ratted her out because they knew what she was doing was wrong. In fact, if you look at the text, that was a group text. This is insane that these people feel so safe to do this in a group of at least 13 to 14 people. Notice there are 13 participants on this group text, right? This is their best practices. Implement best practices. Second bullet, avoid homes advertising Trump. Again, that's the boldness of management in a bureaucracy that was unelected. They know that there is a pile of Democrats that all lean their way. Think about this. There were 13 people on this text exchange. Not all 13 came forward. So that means some of the other ones were okay with covering this up and administering this same best practice of not going to places that had advertising for Trump in it. Further proof, if you look on the left, you'll see a Trump flag at this home. Now, this person did not lose their home, but it doesn't matter. Disaster relief is disaster relief. It could have been somebody who lost their life and everything else at this home. But just for the sake of having a Trump flag there, notice the electronic report for this person. This is for their home. Did you make contact? No. What was the outcome? Not able to access. That's the one that says not able to access. In the notes section, that's where they put that there was a Trump flag there. So they're justifying why, because again, these people get paid for what they're doing out there. So they have to justify why they didn't render any kind of assistance to these people. They have to give their reasons why. And what they're doing is, whether it's to rat out Miss Washington or not, they're basically saying, I did not go here. You still need to pay me. And the reason why I didn't go here, because you told me if there was a Trump flag there, not to go. They're literally logging this in their own database to say why they didn't go. So there's a paper trail a mile long. The claim is that upwards to 20 people, 20 homes, 20 families, let's put it that way, did not get assistance because those 20 homes showed some sign of support for Donald J. Trump for president. I got to repeat, this is an employee of the federal government who was not elected, who was assigned, right, from a federal bureaucracy that we all pay into, including those 20 people who did not get assistance for the simple fact that they had a Trump flag or a Trump bumper sticker, something signifying their support for Donald J. Trump for president. The tax dollars that they were paying this clown Washington and the people out there to give support to these people was refused. The same people who put money into the same system were refused any assistance using their own money because somebody did not like who they were going to vote for. I have a special surprise for you guys. Tomorrow's show is going to be a person who actually renders assistance in North Carolina and East Tennessee to a lot of these disaster victims out there. This is a person, boots on the ground, using private money and private donations, no federal money. And I want to see these stark differences between a government-paid person who has weaponized the federal government and federal taxpayer dollars and a person with a true heart, a big heart, who doesn't care, not even curious about what somebody's political affiliation is whenever they need something. The difference in all of these cases is very clear. These wacko leftists who seek to weaponize the federal government do not see every American as a person. They see them as affiliated with a political party. Therefore, that may or may not justify whatever help they can give them. These other folks who are true boots on the ground over there, not the ones running from it like the federal government has, the true boots on the ground see these people as fellow Americans, fellow human beings, brothers and sisters. And guess what? They could have the bluest of blue hair and wear the most beautiful Walsh Harris t-shirt known to man, leather jacket with lights blasting out of it, stating that we are only voting for Kamala and screw Donald Trump. You know who would still get help? That person. Because these people out there who are rendering assistance see these people as people, not party affiliations.
I don't understand the point that you're making.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's over.